Hey folks, Quilly18 here, and welcome to another episode of our Project Caprica series here for Unity. And I know it's been a couple of weeks since the last one because I went away to the Unite LA convention. That's the Unity convention that they put on. I don't know, there's like... Are there like a couple Unites a year, and they like put them all over the world? They keep spreading them out. I think the one before LA was in Berlin, which would have been cool to go to. But the LA one was excellent, met a lot of great people, learned some cool things that I'm looking forward to apply in the future. In particular, I'm excited to get over to 2018.3, which is currently in preview beta. It's not going to make much of a difference early on for the project, but there's some sweet stuff in 0.3 that's going to be really useful later on. In particular, oh my god, the next nested texture or nested prefab stuff, so good. But we're going to continue what we're doing today. By the way, my apologies for the fact that this isn't on GitHub yet. Actually, this morning I went to get everything on GitHub, and GitHub was having issues. Wouldn't keep me logged in for some reason. It kept I think they're having an issue with their server, so I'll try again as soon as I'm done recording this video, so hopefully by the time you see this, there'll be a GitHub link. In any case, what I want to do today is get some stars looking properly. We'll also talk about a couple other things with the... There's something else I want to mention. What was it? Oh, yeah! I think last episode, and when we were working out these views, and like I'm setting things up, and you've got like multiple canvases and stuff, or at least, you know, that's what I was discussing. Like, I don't know if it's a good idea, if the right thing to do is to have multiple canvases or what. So I've done some Googling since then, and it turns out multiple canvases actually is the recommended solution when you've got a fairly complicated scene going on. And I was very surprised by that, but as it turns out, with the way canvases work is if you change an element, like... I don't know if it applies, well, probably applies to something like changing text as well, but certainly resizing elements, removing an element, moving things around, stuff like that, enabling, disabling elements, cause the entire canvas to redraw itself, but only that one canvas. And therefore, if you do operate with multiple canvases, I kind of want to say for some reason, you actually get more optimal performance because it doesn't have to redraw all of them at the same time. Obviously, you're going to want to balance that with like what makes sense to have in one kind of interface so that things, you know, behave and pay attention to each other. But it's perfectly fine to have multiple canvases. And it sounds like there's not really any considerable overhead to having multiple canvases going around. And yeah, that it's actually the preferred solution. So I was very happy to see that because that bodes very well for our particular project. I also want to address the fact that it would be much easier, probably cooler looking and slightly more optimal if for our star system zoom in, we actually treated it more like the new Master of Orion, like the latest release that's just called Master of Orion, or we'll call it Master of Orion 4 just for simplicity as we keep going forward here. Where when you click on a solar system, all it does is it zooms you in on it, and as you zoom in, at some point it unhides the planets, basically. That's kind of the effect that you've got going on, is as soon as you zoom into a certain point, I think it does a nice sort of alpha fade for it, but it brings in the planets for that particular solar system, zoom out, it hides it, and it's very nice and cool. But the reason I want to do a Master of Orion 2 style, where we have the solar system show up in a window, is actually because it's harder, but it means that we're going to get to look at a couple of things that you can do with that. It's kind of cool, you know. We might actually use like a render texture or something to do it. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, let's get these stars going on. I don't like the fact that we've got a very boring galaxy going on. So, in our galaxy visual, we have these stars over here, which are currently just prefabs that don't do anything. I mean, they're really not anything going on that's anything special over here. It's just that. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove these. That's going to be okay. Shumpa. And if we look at our code over here, right, we have our universe manager that creates a galaxy. Also, excellent point about having generate maybe be some sort of interface or something like that. We may do something with this function and put it in, you know, organize it in a different way, but we'll just leave it there for now. It's going to be fine. So our universe manager, which is a mono behavior, and it's attached to an object, has a generate function, which creates a galaxy and then generates it. The galaxy then generates X number of star systems and adds it to an array, and each star system then calls its own generate over here, which doesn't really do anything, and that's fine. So what we need now is we need it so that our visuals represent these star systems, because we end up with 50 stars, but at no point are they actually rendered on the screen. And again, we're doing this with a pure C# class because it gives us a really good way to split up our our data from our presentation, which is a very important concept, especially if you decide to move into something like the ECS system as an example. And I am planning on doing some ECS-y things in here, not for the primary data sources for many different reasons, but we'll still experiment with things and see how it goes. So probably here in our galaxy view, we have a galaxy visuals empty object, which seems like, yeah, this is probably where we're going to want all of our stars to be in here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to create a component called, how about galaxy visuals? Seems like an okay idea. There's other things. I mean, we can have a galaxy view thing as well, which... Well, galaxy view encompasses everything. It encompasses the 3D objects of the sort of, you know, the galaxy view visuals as well as the UI. So galaxy visuals, I think, is okay. I mean, we could, you know, they say the 3 hardest things in programming are 1, naming things, and 2, off by 1 errors. So let's just go with this. We can always rename things later on. Modern IDs make that really simple for us to do. So I don't know what category this is in. We'll just leave it in scripts for now. Probably there'll be some sort of like sub-organization or something at some point. All right, so we've got that, and that's attached over here, right? Yes, okay, good. So the idea with this is that after, and this is very important to note, after our star system gets generated, Galaxy Visuals is going to want to generate the visuals to match. And, you know, we've messed around with complicated, like, event systems and things like this. I don't think we really need a true event system necessarily for this, because it's really only something that's going to happen once, right? The Universe Manager generates the galaxy, and then after this, tell our visual system to spawn the graphics. And I think what we can do for this is literally just say something like there's just going to be a Galaxy Visuals somewhere in existence. And, And I was going to say we can just have something like public void initiate visuals. Right? Sure. Something like that is perfectly okay. We could pass it something, which seems relatively straightforward. Like, what if we do something like we pass it a galaxy? No. Galaxy. Oh, we have a namespace. So the namespace is Caprica, and what I'm doing, and I think I'm going to keep going with this, is almost like this namespace is almost like Caprica data. As opposed to these mono behaviors, which might not be part of the namespace, or maybe we put them in the namespace. I don't know. Well, I'm sure we'll change our minds on this 17 different times. I'll just put a using here. So galaxy. There we go. And it wouldn't surprise me if we end up keeping a reference to this, because that seems relatively straightforward. So we want, yeah, galaxy. At some point, we're going to have a little bit of discussion about our naming convention here, because I'm actually going to be switching our IDE, or my IDE, to something else, and really making use of ReSharper to keep a consistent style. And by default, ReSharper for C# wants to use an underscore for private and protected. I don't think protected. I think just private properties like this. Wow, this is really... Show potential fixes. What is it? Is it unhappy about this? Rename galaxy to galaxy, except I did. That was weird. And it's still got a little underline here. Anyway, yeah, that's something else. I get with ReSharper in here. Anyway, yeah, I haven't fully decided. People have made a good case that just having case differences to differentiate between, say, public fields and private stuff isn't clear enough, and maybe you want underscores, and I don't know. Well, we'll have another discussion about that in the future. Anyway, moving on. So probably we do this dot this equals that, something like that. Okay. And then we can use either one, it doesn't matter. So the question is, how does our Universe Manager grab the Galaxy Visuals? If we know for sure that Galaxy Visuals is going to be enabled when the program runs, we've got a bunch of different ways we can grab it. And one of my favorite ways tends to be something like GameObjects.find object of type with the class over here, like this. So what it does is it finds the first instance of this component somewhere in the scene and returns this. Now, one of the issues with this is it doesn't find things that aren't enabled. This doesn't return things that aren't enabled. And, so then we have to make sure that things are enabled for this to work. The alternative is, see, if this wasn't a mono behavior, we could do some things with statics and keep a copy of the instantiator. But with mono behaviors, you really don't want to override the constructors and things like that. And we can't do anything in start. Start doesn't get called if it's not active. So while I I've come to dislike this, I think for this, since we don't know if Galaxy Visuals will be enabled from the start, I think we have to end up doing something like this. It's somewhat, and then wired in Universe Manager over here, and our Galaxy Visuals, we have to point to it that way. I don't like having to maintain these links in the inspector. I like doing it in code because it's so easy to like forget to update this, or something gets deleted and it's pointing somewhere weird. You don't get compile time errors over here, whereas if you do things in code, it's going to check most things. It's going to be more or less okay. But I think in this case we have to do that. Now, the thing is, there's only going to be one in the scene like this. We have to do this one time and it's going to be okay. But I like to avoid doing this. I've really come to like avoiding to do this as much as possible. We are going to go and have the publics before the private stuff. That's going to be okay. And so anyway, we don't need to do this, which is going to be okay. And then, yeah, and now at this point, all we do is say, hey, this dot initiate visuals, and here's the galaxy that we're talking about. Done, done, done. I mean, it's a lot of talking for one line of code, but these are the sort of things I like to have discussions about because it feels like there's a better way to maybe do some of this. And, I'm sure there's a bunch of things, but I don't know. This will be okay. Anyway, we got that. That was a lot of talking for things. One thing we do need over here for sure is something like a public game object star prefab, I guess. Right, and that's sort of unavoidable. Well, I say that. We could have things in a resource folder, and then we could just load things up with a text line or something. Maybe that's something that we'll do later on, especially since what we might want to do is not have to go through the trouble of having everything be prefabs. Maybe we want to create these prefabs programmatically and be able to load in a bunch of images and other parameters from, JSON files and JPEGs that are just sitting in a folder somewhere to make it easy to mod, yada, yada, yada. That'll have to be something that maybe comes later. So we want to go ahead and feed the star prefab into here. And probably this is going to be something more like an array of star prefabs where index of array is a star type. I don't know if that's actually true because maybe not, because we probably want no, actually we do want this. Array, index of an array is a star type. I like that. So basically, for star type 0, which is, I don't know, depending on how we're implementing this, star type 0 is a yellow star, okay? So the 0th element, right? Element 0 is going to be for our yellow star. Oh, I think I was dragging the wrong thing. Is going to be for our yellow star. Now, the prefab itself, the prefabs are responsible for having appearance variety, right? So the prefab for the yellow star will have logic in there where it pulls in, multiple yellow star textures, or, slightly different shape and size and slightly different, glow effects or something, just so that not every yellow star looks the same. But there's no reason, I think, for a Galaxy visual system to be aware of that. So that's going to be okay. So I think all we have to do in here is loop through each one of the stars in the galaxy, and I will use a for each. There's always, you know, discussions about performance and things, and yeah, those are pretty legitimate for things depending on what you're doing. But it's a great construct, and it's very obvious about how it works, so I like it. So we're going to do this in galaxy dot star. Yeah, we do it this way. There's reasons, because we don't want to know what the internal representation is. We could have a version of Galaxy that returns all the stars, though. So I guess there's two ways we can do it. We could either have a version of Galaxy that does return an array of stars, like just set to an array, irrespective of its internal representation. But actually, I guess we do want to have a for loop, after all. Did I? Yeah, I just type up this. For I is that. So length, what we don't have in our galaxy system public int get num star system, which just returns star systems dot what is it? Count for this one, right? Yeah, count as an actual return. Okay, we could do that. I mean, we could do fancy stuff where we actually can return some sort of enumeration system so that we can still do for each, but we're going to keep it a little simple for now. But I could see us doing something like that. Galaxy.getNum star systems. And, you know, and again, there's things with properties and things we can do instead of these functions, but I think it's going to be here. Okay, so then we go and get a star system. SS is equal to galaxy.getStarSystem with this index. Excellent. And then what we want to do is we want to do a game object. Geo is equal to instantiate our... from our star system prefabs, where the array is equal to this dot, I guess we have a star type, but we don't actually... Right, we have positive and negative numbers is what we were sort of talking about over here for the representation. It's probably a good idea. Is this a read only? No, we only generate it here because of reasons, which is okay. So we can't do a read only, but we could do something like get and then a private set. Something like that. Are you still getting yours? Oh, that's over here. Yeah, yeah. Star type. I like the idea of 0 being the yellow spot, and then positive numbers are older and negative numbers are younger, which is misspelled. Obviously, that breaks our indexing system, though. Unless we know how many different star types there are. You know what I'm saying? Right? I'd like the star types to be something like -2, -1, 0, just because it makes some of the math easy. But unless we know this range... Well, I guess we could do... I feel like this might be a little bit of a stopgap. But if we do a public constant int min star type of -2, and just for whatever, we'll have a max star type, which might be the sort of thing we offload into that config file or something like that. But let's leave this here for now. This is I'm very much... I know it's not a perfect thing. int star type index. Actually, this seems like the sort of thing we might use enough that we might do something like that. Again, I'm not pleased with this. Not pleased with this. But in the interest of let's write code and then figure out a sexier way to do it later, let's move on. So then we'll also have a little helper function, public int get star type index. Weird hacky function to convert from -2 to +2 range to a 0 to 4 range, right? Because of indexes and things like that. So what we do is we actually just return the star type plus the min star type or something like that. So they don't even have to be public if we do it this way, which at least, you know, that's something. Wait, this would be a negative. So we want to do like a minus star type. So if it's a 0 minus the -2, that means that our yellow star would be a 2. And if we're actually at min star type, which is -2, so -2 minus -2, which is a +2, leads us to a 0, which fixes this. Not pleased in the greater scheme, but it'll work for now, and then we'll figure it out. What is the thing called? Oh. Get star type index. I was doing it in the wrong place. Da-da-da-da-da, like that. Okay. And it would like a parent and a position. We want probably this. Tell you what, let's do a multi-line. So the position, new vector 3. We're gonna do something. We don't know what it is. The rotation can just be quaternion.identity to start off with, and the parent is going to be this.transform. So you're going to be a child of the galaxy visuals. That's where the stars are going to be, which seems like a perfectly fine way to go. Now the position, we actually do have the stars or the star system's.position somewhere in here, do we not? And it is set to a vector 3, and I think we can just map that. Now I suspect. Wait, seriously? I guess, yeah, we can just say that. Okay. I suspect we might decide to convert the, well, I don't know, actually. I was going to say the internal star position to a different one when we convert to Unity world space. So we might want to multiply this by some scalar, but right now we don't need that. So, you know, are we gonna want to by a scalar? Maybe not, actually. Okay, so we now instantiate the star system. We put it in the right place. In theory, this is now functional. What have I forgotten? I don't know. Maybe nothing. Oh, index out of range. There's likely to be more than one of those. Oh, right, yes. Okay, so our star prefabs, we are now, for our star system, our yellow star, it's element 2 in the index here. So there's no element 2, so we have to make sure that exists. That's fine. We're going to set it like this, and that's going to be okay for now. All of our stars are going to look the same, but yeah, we need to make sure that there's enough defined here to cover that. All right, let's try this again. Okay, they're way over there and obscured by the mini map. How's our camera? So they have, okay, they have all their positions. That's good. Where's our camera? So what we're gonna have to do is definitely pull back with her camera for one. And our camera is also not big enough. I think we still want to stay orthographic, but we need our size. Now, I can't remember if this size is... 2D mode. With the 5... Is it 5 from the center? Oh, it's 5 vertically, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's 5 units this way. So I think our galaxy is plus or minus 100. There we go. So we've got some stars in there. Oh, maybe it's 100 wide, but we do plus and minus 50? Because it's feeling like at around 50... We sort of kind of see that. We want it to be a little bigger. That's fine. We're going to figure out something. So this is still very square, which is... Oops, yeah. Nah. Minus 160. Like that. So now if we hit play... And yeah, it's going to be very square, which is actually vaguely appropriate for this. The camera is still not positioned necessarily where we want it for the view, and the stars do generate in a in a square from the middle here, and really we're going to want that offset slightly so that it's actually lined up in this area here. And I'm not going to want to fiddle with this manually to make this work properly. We're going to want to... I guess we want to make sure that from here to here is about 50. We got the mini-map over... Wait, we don't need a mini-map. Is that what is that what I'm sort of eyeballing there? Is maybe a mini-map? What the hell are we going to do with that? Nothing. I think we're just sort of talking. I can't remember what, if anything, we'd use that for. I mean, maybe when you have something selected. So yeah, we'll do something. And actually, what I suspect will happen, because we can assume that people's screens will be probably 16 by 9, right? Most people have this kind of aspect ratio. So with that assumption, we might not build a square galaxy. Or maybe for game balance, we do. And, we will never really be in a position maybe where we can see everything at once. So, because imagine with our camera, right, if we are... sort of zoomed into this level here. I thought I'd be able to drag that. Oh, I have there. This will be a little easier, right? So you can sort of pan around this way, and the camera gets limited and everything. We're gonna have to figure out some sort of smart behavior for the camera. And we've got a semi-transparent thing over there, which is why the stars look like that. And then, so for the zoom, you just go ahead and make the size smaller. I don't know how useful the zoom will be. Well, if it's a big galaxy with a lot of stars, like when you get this far out, like to be able to see everything, you might not be able to see the name, the text. So yeah, we probably want some sort of zoom and pan. You can see here some of the stars are too close together because we're just a completely random splat. We're gonna have to figure out some sort of like nice user friendly way of figuring out exactly how we want the camera to go. And the galaxy again is sort of being sort of squarish, which is good for game balance, but we might want to make, rounder, more circular galaxies. I don't know. Anyway, we'll put a cut in here. I know, like, just getting the stars to generate isn't a big thing. And I probably talk too much, but I think there was, it's what we do, right? We talk a lot about, well, why are we doing things, and what does this mean for the greater scope of stuff? Part of me does want to treat this a little bit more like a Let 'em Dare thing, where I just write code and grind it out quickly, but I feel like the chatting has to happen. Although at some point, I got to go and put the pedal to the metal so that we can actually get some more stuff done. All right, well, we'll put a cut in here, and hopefully next time, write a bunch more code. Thanks for watching, folks. See you next time. Thank you to all the October patrons who make these videos possible, including these mic check supporters: Yoko Finn, Eric Sumner, Adam Keenan, Danny Welch, Tiburon, Mighty Mix, Pavel Zdanov, Michael McClintock, Aaron Tyson, Rorskal, Gurko Dries, TNSEE, Jasper Bisgard, Julien Gelafon, Marius Field-Vold, Speedy Savant, Steven Steger, Thomas Oberson, Jason Yanity, Stephen Bonnerman, Easter Egg Productions, and Neil Blakely Milner, as well as everyone who likes, favorites, and subscribes to these videos. Thank you very, very much.